Hey, and welcome to Trail Trials, a video review section of iRunFar.com. My name is Travis Lyles, and in this video, we're going to take a look at the Hoka Speedgoat 7. Let's check it out. All right, let's start off with the basics here. This is the 7th iteration of the Speedgoat from Hoka, so a very kind of tried and true and known shoe in the trail and ultra running community, especially for technical terrain with that max cushion balance here. So this comes in at 9.7 ounces in a men's size 9, so just under 10 ounces. You have a 5mm drop from heel to toe with about 37 in the heel and 32 in the forefoot. We have a redesigned tread pattern on the bottom, but most importantly is the new super critical foam in the midsole. A lot squishier. We'll get into those details, but let's get up close and personal and let's see what this shoe is all about. Okay, quick little disclaimer here. Generally, you're going to see B-roll and probably dirt and stuff all over in a more broken-looking shoe from my reviews. I did train and spend almost 100 miles in a Speedgoat 7 over the last month, but not this Speedgoat 7. It was a different colorway that's not released yet. This is the official colorway that is launched now, and so I'm showing you that review, but I'm basing all of my opinions and thoughts on an existing shoe that is the production model of the Speedgoat 7. All right, with that in mind, let's check this thing out. So let's start off by talking about the outsole here. So if you've worn Speedgoats in the past, it's Vibram Mega Grip and no changes here to the compound. What there are changes to is the patterning, and that's really the main part here. So we still have 5mm lugs that sort of bite in and do a really good job of getting some depth and grip into the ground. You have the traction lug, which is these little dots all the way around the outside of the lug that adds more surface area, that's supposed to add more grip. You have forward-facing lugs in the front for going uphill, and you have rear-facing lugs in the back, and they sort of transition back and forth here in the middle part of the shoe for that sort of transitionary type of movement. Overall, I'd say this. If you like what Vibram Mega Grip is, this shoe falls right into that place. If you like existing Speedgoat patterns, whether that's really anything from the 6 down to probably the 2, I don't think you're going to notice much of a performance difference. I trained here in the Pacific Northwest. It's wet, it's muddy, it's slick, things have moss on it, the bridges get slimy. These perform exactly like I would expect them to, which is very good. All right, moving into the midsole, this is probably the 1A of what I think is most significant about this shoe, and they're using hypercritical foam here in the midsole. And I just want to call out a couple things before I dig into that too far. You're going to notice this like line here, and you're going to see it in press shots as well. This is not a piece of plastic. This is not really anything other than just something visual, and you can kind of see down here where that white stripe just sort of turns into the midsole. So it's really just some, I don't know, a way visually style to break up the midsole a little bit from what it looks like, but it is just foam. So I want to call that out. And so what is supercritical foam? Well, this is a much more springy and lively feeling version of the Speedgoat, and arguably as someone that's worn this shoe really from the beginning, I'd say that this is probably the most lively and active feel of a Speedgoat. The last version was very firm. This sort of sets in the middle between what I think is the original Speedgoat foam and then the last version that we just had. So this foam rides really nice. It absorbs impact really well from obstructions and obstacles that are on the trail, right? Things kind of poking up. The pressure from those things seems to disperse really well, but it also has a lively type of feel. And what I mean by that is there's not any rock plate or carbon fiber plating or anything like that in there, but this to me feels like the most kind of active and modern foam that's been in this shoe. And in fact, if you have an older Speedgoat and you kind of hit the heel down on the ground, it's got almost a hollow, puffy type of sound and sort of feel to it. This has got a much firmer type of feel in terms of rebound, but it doesn't add to any of the weight. It still comes in at sub 10 ounces, and so it's just a more bouncy type of feel while maintaining the older Speedgoats softness, which means less foot fatigue, less firmness. I feel like the shoe kind of deforms and melts around the terrain underneath better than the last version, which I just felt like was too stiff for what the Speedgoat initially was. All right, well, let's talk about the other significant update here, which is the 1B, and that is this upper. And so if you look at this upper visually, what you're going to note from previous versions, really the 5s and 6s to now, is they've kind of gone back to a more traditional type of upper patterning. And what I mean by that is if you look at some of these spots here, there's a little bit of a darker white here, there's a little bit darker of a black here, and you're going to see that same type of patterning here on this outside as well, and then a little bit up here also. And so gone is the kind of booty, sock-like stretch mesh upper that we've seen in the last couple of iterations. More back to a upper that is a little more tight. And I mean that really from kind of some of the fabric here, less stretchy fabric, but also an upper that incorporates this cage-like upper, which I showed here with these lines going through. And so to look in here, there is a little tiny bit of a gusseted tongue, just barely though. It's really mostly just to keep the tongue in place. But right behind where this gusset, this stretchy mesh here is, it's tough to see because it's black, is this cage-like feel. And that cage-like feel is attached to the laces and goes all the way down to the midsole, and it fits very much between like these middle eyelets of the shoe on both sides. So it really locks down the top of the foot, keeps your foot connected inside of the shoe versus sort of sliding back and forth or having some stretch and give to it. But the benefit to me is that you have a more lockdown shoe. And so when you're on technical terrain, when you're on stuff where it's maybe off camber, your foot does a whole lot less sliding around and it definitely feels more locked down, which I enjoy. Okay, up to the tongue here to expand on that a little bit more. It's been lengthened, so it covers more space, and you can kind of see that it comes up pretty far above the top eyelet. And so I generally lace at this top eyelet, and some of the previous Speedgoats, the laces, when I tied them, were actually above the tongue. That has been eliminated, so this covers more ground, basically keeping the irritation down between the top of your foot and the shoe itself. We can slide down here into the bottom of the shoe itself, and so for some stretch, you've got some stretch and some breathability here in this upper part of the shoe. From a upper in general, it's a little bit more of a scratchy, I'm going to use the word dry feeling upper. So instead of being kind of a soft, clothy feel to it, it's a little bit more ruggedy feeling, and you can kind of hear that in my scratching. But again, 100 miles in the other pair, I've not noticed anything like tearing early. It's been holding up, I think, as expected for kind of the life of any general shoe. So 100 miles, I feel like it's going to look a little bit worn in, but you shouldn't have any holes in it or things like that. And I can just report back comparative to the other ones, that is the case. Very similar stuff here with the toe box, some overlays in the front, a toe cap that brings up that's pretty rugged and sturdy here on the front. Even taking them through water, there's enough spots here and up here and down here where I feel like the water is able to escape. So even doing some creek crossings and things like that, I felt like they dried out fairly well. And then lastly, let's talk a little bit about the heel cup. Very standard heel cup here in that it is structured. You can see it breaks down a little bit where the heel cup comes into about right here. You got a big tag on the back to pull this up on your heel. There is a gator attachment at the back if you're into gators. A big reflective hit here on the back, which is, you know, good for wintertime running and just being able to be seen. But overall, I think if you are a old Speedgoat fan, and by old I mean versions 2 through 4, and 5 and 6 weren't doing it for you, I think you're going to be pretty happy about what's going on here. In closing, I'm excited, right? I've been wearing Speedgoats for basically their entirety with the exception of the one, and the last couple of versions, quite frankly, were not what I felt was kind of true to what the shoe was. They were pretty firm. The upper didn't lock down very good, so it sort of put it in this spot of it's not something that I could wear for like really technical stuff. I felt like it was very much more tuned for kind of the fire road, you know, wide, like not a lot of movement, less technical terrain. This to me gets back to what the Speedgoat 2, 3, and 4 were, which is a really locked down upper, good grip on the bottom, and foam that feels like both protective, yet enough cushion, yet springy enough to feel fast when it needs to feel fast. But for long distance trail running, for general everyday trail running, there's a lot here to like. And if I was to like really think back about the last couple iterations, really it was the Mafate Speed 4 that for me took the place of the Speedgoat. And that was because it felt more locked down. It had a softer midsole. It felt like it worked better on that technical terrain than the last couple of iterations. Then we moved into the newest Mafate Speed, which had a higher heel drop and just didn't feel as secure. And so I was, as an individual trail runner, left kind of wanting, like, what am I going to wear right now? And until the Speedgoat 7 came out, I didn't really have a good answer. I was kind of toying with a lot of different stuff. But I can say, like, while this may not be the only shoe that I wear, this is a shoe, to me, that's back to what the Speedgoat was for me, which is something I can just wear a lot in a lot of different situations. I'm going to feel good about really long distance stuff. I'm going to feel good about fire roads. I'm going to feel good about technical terrain. You know, I can wear it on the roads a little bit as well. It's just got all that stuff that was endearing to me of this shoe when it really started to hit its stride. Very excited about this. Or the only sort of asterisk is this probably fits smaller than any other Speedgoat I've worn. This is a 9. I wear a 9. But in terms of like previous Speedgoat sizing, it feels about a quarter of a size off. And I know that's hard to quantify. Before, the Speedgoat was just like a touch big for me. And now this one like almost fits just right. So I only bring that up if, you know, you're somebody that was close in sizing before, you might want to size up. But outside of that, I think if you like that previous heritage of the Speedgoat, you're going to like what's going on here. Any questions, comments, feedback, if you've had an opportunity to wear these yet, leave those in the comments below, and we'll catch you next time.